What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that hit Shudder recently, and this isn't a Shudder original, but I read some reviews of this movie, and people were comparing it to Deadstream, which is a Shudder original that I really liked a lot. It's essentially like Evil Dead meets Social Influencer. The movie's a ton of fun, a lot of great attention to detail to the practical effects. So hearing that this movie was in kind of the same vein as that, I 100% was willing to check it out. And the movie I'm going to be talking about with you today is #ChadGetsTheAxe. #ChadGetsTheAxe is directed by Travis Bible. Four social media influencers live stream their trip to Devil's Manor, former home to a satanic cult. Things don't go well, and as the violence ramps up, so do the views. So, as I said, huge fan of Deadstream and heard a lot of comparisons to that with this movie, and I was really looking forward to checking it out. And unfortunately, this movie is not very good. It's not terrible by any means. It's nowhere near as intelligent or thoughtful or well shot as Deadstream is. And I'll talk about it a little bit more as I break the movie down. So at the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to four different sets of influencers who we see one influencer play a prank on another one at the very beginning of the movie. And all four influencers decide to go to this house, I believe in Louisiana, and they all fly there together. And apparently it was home to a satanic cult. And they all believe that if they go there and live stream their visit, that they'll get millions of followers. And all four of these people are incredibly unlikable. There's one guy of the four who is a little bit less obnoxious than the rest of them, but he's still really irritating. And they get there to this house, they explore, it's like empty and disgusting, and they end up going into the attic, and they find a body that is hanging from the rafters, and they end up messing with the body. And after they do that, a bunch of crazy stuff starts happening to them, and these cult members start coming after them to kill them. So, as I said, I thought this movie was not very good. I will say, for starters, I enjoyed elements of this film. I thought the performances were all pretty good at these people playing like the most miserable, obnoxious human beings that you can imagine. I think the movie does a really nice job encapsulating what social media culture is like and what influencer culture is like, and how these people will literally risk their own lives to get as much viewership as they possibly can to a ridiculous degree. And this movie showcases that in a very hilarious way. I think the chemistry between the characters, especially early on in the film, they do a really great job kind of building it up, giving you a little bit of backstory as to where these people come from and the relationships that they already have established before we meet them at this moment in time. And that is about my favorite part of the movie. As far as the horror elements go, it's very sloppy. I don't feel like this movie has any sort of tension. Where Deadstream, you put a character who's ridiculous and unlikable in a situation that's truly creepy. It has a very distinct environment. It keeps cutting back to specific rooms that you've seen over and over again. There's a lot of attention to detail to practical effects and adding things into the camera to kind of allude to what's going to happen later on. This movie, it's like you spend the first half hour with nothing, you finally get to something interesting, and then there's just cutaways to where nothing happens, and then something creepy happens, and then nothing happens again. There's not that feeling of dread throughout the entire runtime of the film like Deadstream. Deadstream, you feel the threat the whole movie, despite there being comedic levity in that film. There's such a great balance to where they can throw in a joke, but you're never forgetting that the lead character is in danger even when you're laughing. In this movie, there's so many stupid lines of dialogue and side plots that really don't add anything to the movie and don't add anything to the overall payoff of the third act. It's just like characters getting into arguments, the relationship between two of the influencers that are there that they keep cutting back to that just felt so irrelevant to the overall runtime of the film. And the like cult members that are chasing after them, I wasn't a huge fan of their look. It was incredibly cheap and kind of lazy. And I feel like there could have been a lot more attention to detail in the makeup or the practical effects, because there's not even a whole lot of practical effects in this movie. A lot of the kill sequences and things that are occurring are all off screen, which it's like, I get this movie probably has a very limited budget, but if you're going to to put your budget somewhere, like make a frightening kill, make something that's going to be memorable to an audience member, not just like random influencers running around and like a one-off kill happening every like 30 minutes. It was just like a really cheaply, poorly done found footage movie that kind of like went into the slasher genre a little bit with like people getting picked off one by one. And then they try to incorporate the satanic cult element, and it's like you're supposed to be reading things from the viewers in the comments that kind of allude to what's going on, mixed in with the little bits of backstory that the characters involved in the film are giving you. And it just felt lazy to me. Like it was a cool concept, but I just watched Deadstream do this 1,000 times better in a way that was effective and that had genuinely horrific imagery, and that the character, despite being not a likable human being, was charismatic and interesting, which made the movie a very easy watch, where like all four of these characters were so incredibly throwaway, and a lot of the humor was really flat as well and just kind of irritating. And by the time this movie was over, I was just like, I'm gonna forget like 90% of this thing next week. And it wasn't miserable, like I didn't hate the experience of watching it, but I also probably wouldn't run to go watch this tomorrow or anything. I just think there's so much better out there that exists in this genre that this movie isn't worth wasting your time on. So have you seen hashtag Chad Gets the Axe? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was not great. I was pretty bored through most of the runtime of the movie, and despite the build up of the characters and like me finding them entertaining, there's not a whole lot about this movie to like. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.